Joining me now is one of our national security experts, David Pine. He joins us to break down some of the meetings at the White House today with European leaders, President Trump in the East Room, Zelensky in there as well. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. Let me start before I go to clips. Here are my concerns. I talked about this with Colonel Pine today at 1 o'clock for TV and radio. 1 o'clock Central at worldviewtube.com and on the VCY American Network at WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida. And it sounds like we're doing some kind of Article 5-like situation where we're promising Zelensky lots of protection. You're going to have to give up some land to Russia, but we're going to give you lots of protection. I asked Colonel about this today. I want to get your response. Are they setting up Donald Trump? Are they setting him up so that you have somebody do something provocative that they can then blame on Russia, and then we go in there and deal with it, or fighting starts up and now we're in a Article 5-like scenario where we have to provide protection? He's already saying today, Zelensky, he wants American soldiers on the ground. He said that in the Oval Office today. How concerned are you this is a setup by the European leaders that seem so committed to going to war? At least they did a few weeks ago. David?
So I'm not worried about that. And the reason I'm not worried about that is because President Trump, during his press conference earlier today with Zelensky prior to a meeting with the EU leaders, he basically said the U.S. isn't going to guarantee Ukraine at all. We're not going to have an Article 5 security guarantee. We would love to see our NATO allies have that Article 5 security guarantee, but that's not going to apply to the U.S. So, in other words, if Russia were to reinvade Ukraine, which is not going to happen if Ukraine honors the deal of the terms of the peace deal that Trump has proposed and Putin has proposed, then European troops could potentially go in, and the U.S. would just watch it happen and kind of stay out of the fight. We would, of course, continue to supply our NATO partners and presumably Zelensky with massive amounts of armaments. Well, I guess not massive, because we've pretty much given them all the spare weapons we have, and really emasculated a lot of our arsenal in terms of Patriot missiles and other key weapon systems, Stingers and HIMARS and ATACMS missiles, things that we would need to fight a great power war against Russia or China, but we would provide arms to them. So that's really when Trump thinks of a security guarantee, he's not going to make it official, but the only security guarantee that Zelensky can expect, it would be U.S. arms shipments in the event of future Russian aggression.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to a clip and have your response to a couple of these. Here we go.
I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees, of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees, fits with what we've been doing with the Coalition of the Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security. With you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed, I think we could take a really important step forward today. A historic step, actually, could come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe. I also feel that we can make real progress towards a just and lasting outcome. Obviously, that has to involve Ukraine, and a trilateral meeting seems the sensible next step. So thank you for being prepared to take that forward, because I think if we can ensure that that is the progress out of this meeting, both security guarantees and some sort of progress on trilateral meeting of some sort to bring some of the difficult issues to a head, then I think today will be seen as a very important day in recent years in relation to a conflict which has gone on for 3 and a bit years, and so far nobody's been able to bring it to this point. So I thank you for that.
All right, David, your thoughts on that, please?
Well, yeah, again, I think that, what Starmer and Macron envision is something that Trump's never going to give. He's never.
I think this is such an important meeting.
Sorry about
They
that.
talked about British and French peacekeepers being sent to Ukraine after a ceasefire or after a peace agreement is signed. But then they quickly clarified they'd only do so with U.S. military support, whether it's in terms of ground troops or some kind of no-fly zone, which would link them to the U.S. And essentially be a guarantor to that the U.S. would join the conflict if Russia were to attack British or French troops. That's never going to happen. Pete Hegseth stated very clearly in February at the Munich Security Summit that if Britain and France wanted to send troops inside Ukraine, they do so alone outside of any Article 5 guarantees. And if they lost 20,000 dead troops because they sent 20,000 troops into Ukraine to defend the Dnipro River line, the U.S. would just simply sit back and watch. And so, this whole idea of Article 5 security guarantees, I think, is something that, first of all, that Putin has approved of. That nothing shows more clearly that Putin has no desire to ever attack Ukraine ever again if his a peace deal is accepted on terms that Russia can accept and honored by Ukraine. Then the fact that he's agreed to those terms, because obviously if he planned to invade Ukraine again, he wouldn't want Article 5 terms, guarantees for Ukraine, despite the fact that I think Article 5 really doesn't guarantee much of anything, because if you read the fine print in Article 5, it essentially says that member states can do whatever essentially they deem necessary. So it can be a strongly worded letter against Vladimir Putin for attacking Ukraine or invading Lithuania. It can be one U.S. bullet or one U.S. rifle or one soldier as a military advisor sent to the country being attacked, and that satisfies our Article 5 obligations.
Wow. Let's go to the next clip. Here we go.
President, for hosting us today in this important meeting. And I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine. And the reason why I mention it is that we also have to remind that if we want to reach peace and if we want to guarantee justice, we have to do it united. So that's why it's a very good day, the one we are in. You can obviously count on Italy as it was from the beginning. We are on the side of Ukraine, and we do absolutely support your efforts towards peace.
So he's getting quite a bit of praise from these leaders, at least a few of them, which is very interesting because the liberals were all telling us that Donald Trump, the first term, he was going to get us into war. He was going to get us into war. And here he is, second term, and he's apparently doing something that, no other leaders could do.
Yeah, I mean, all these EU leaders are going to try to kiss his ring, butter him up. But essentially what they're trying to do is to get him to renege on the deal. He basically negotiated a deal with Putin actually in advance of the summit, in which he agreed to let the Russians take back the Donbas region, which is essentially another 1% of Ukrainian territory, where they have 19% today. They would have 20% under the Trump-Putin peace deal. And the only reason he didn't sign it is because he promised that he committed to EU leaders that he wouldn't sign a deal without first informing, at least attempting to get Zelensky's buy-in. So
is Zelensky going to buy into giving up land?
Well, Zelensky has been very adamant that he will never agree to give up any territory that Ukraine doesn't currently control, even if it's part of a land swap. So he was very adamant. I'm sure that Trump is going to go hard. There's a closed door meeting, I think, coming up, I don't know, in the next hour or so, that's not going to be, media is not going to be present for. So I think that'll be Trump's opportunity to say, I really think you should take the deal. The U.S. supports the deal, Russia supports the deal. We need Ukraine to support the deal, and we'd love to have the EU support it, but they don't. Who cares if they support it basically? Because they don't have. They're basically vassal states of the U.S. like Ukraine, or at least they should be, because we provide them. We have 100,000 U.S. troops in Europe defending Russia. We have obviously our nuclear umbrella. We have Starlink we could turn off in Ukraine. There's all kinds of things we could do to pressure Zelensky in particular, not so much the EU. Well, we could threaten to leave NATO. I mean, we could say we'll stay in NATO, but we'll pull out all of our ground troops, as I've been advocating. So we have all these kinds of things to which Trump could use to credibly threaten and essentially force EU leaders and Zelensky to accept a deal. And this is a really great deal that he negotiated with Putin. I mean, Putin gave up his demands to all the territory in Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. And that amounts to over 2/3 of his territorial demands for additional Ukrainian territory. A lot of people, this is something that has gone unstated on any other news program that I've seen, is that Putin had been demanding 3.6% of additional Ukrainian territory. Now he's whittled that down to 1.1%,
Wow.
which is about 23.7% of Donetsk Oblast that Russia doesn't currently control. And that's a big win. That's a big diplomatic win for Trump. Putin's also reportedly given up his demand for Ukrainian neutrality, whereas most likely he would demand that U.S. troops and NATO troops be withdrawn from Ukraine and bases and whatnot. But he sounds like he's okay with Ukraine remaining a NATO military ally aligned with NATO. He seems to have given up his demands for Ukrainian military disarmament. I mean, that is huge.
Why is he doing this?
Because he is committed. He's committed to peace. He wants peace. Most importantly, he wants peace with the United States. He sees a path forward for strategic cooperation with the U.S., particularly on economic grounds. Trump has been very focused on offering, talking about lifting all sanctions on Russia from 2014 onward, upon having, massive energy deals in a post-war situation that would include, oil, natural gas, rare earths. Those are all areas, perhaps even technology, including military technology, missile defense technology. Those are all areas that we could cooperate with Russia on. We could sign a U.S.-Russia free trade treaty. We could have kind of a sphere of influence agreement where Russia recognizes all of Europe, essentially all of NATO, to be part of the U.S. sphere of influence, and we, in exchange for us recognizing a sphere of influence for Russia over the former Soviet Union, except for the Baltic states, which are NATO member states. So all those things could be used to counter, to effectively neutralize Russia's alliance with China, so that essentially eliminate the Russian nuclear threat to the United States. And we could also offer to withdraw 20,000 U.S. troops from Eastern Europe, which was actually a main Russian demand back in February when we first met with when Rubio first met with Lavrov.
Let's go to the next clip. Here we go.
Indeed, we are here, Europeans, as friends and allies. We had a fantastic NATO summit. Together as the two largest and biggest economies in the world, we had the largest trade deal ever agreed. And now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest. Stop the killing.
Okay, so there you go. Stop the killing. Let's see what else we have. I think there was the Chancellor of Germany was doing a little lecturing here, and I thought we had the eye rolling from the Italian Prime Minister. I thought she was kind of rolling her eyes at what was going on, if I could find that clip. You guys got that clip of the eye rolling? She was just like, oh, brother. I think it was the Chancellor of Germany who was kind of lecturing Trump. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Let's try this one. This might be it. Let's see here.
President, dear Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations.
Okay, here's the one I think I was thinking of, Logan. You got it? All right, here we go,
Let's
guys.
work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today, are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place.
Well, we're going to let the president go over and talk to the president.
Okay, so you saw the facial expressions of the Prime Minister of Italy there. That was Merz, I think, right? Chancellor of Germany, putting pressure. They're saying that Trump needs to get a ceasefire deal.
Yeah, I mean, Trump has already stated, I mean, this is old news. He stated, I think it was yesterday, that he was not going to, actually, I think it was Friday, that he was not going to pursue a ceasefire. He was not going to require that on the part of Russia. He was going to pursue a comprehensive peace agreement. And that's a key U.S. concession. Russia's been saying that from the get-go. I've been saying that a ceasefire was a dead end because, we don't temporarily end the fighting, but it could not produce a lasting peace agreement or any peace agreement at all, other than, some kind of temporary armistice. So it would essentially just ensure that the Russo-Ukrainian war breaks out again in the very near future. So I'm glad to see Trump come around on that one.
So what do you think? How do you think this is going to end? Wait, I mean, is it going to be a week or two before we get a final deal, or what do you think? Anything going to come out of today's meeting?
Well, I think President Trump is trying to twist some arms and trying to get Zelensky and EU leaders to agree to his peace deal with President Putin that essentially gives up the rest of the Donbass region, Western Donetsk, this 1% of additional Ukrainian territory, in exchange for a peace deal that's, I think, is very favorable, other than that one issue to Ukraine and to the U.S. and NATO. The question is, Zelensky's been super adamant, saying he's never going to do that. So and he brought all his supporters that basically do echo whatever he says in terms of EU leaders along with him for reinforcements. So it's really just depends on Trump, whether he retains the political courage to do what's best for America and say that, you better sign this deal or we're going to, pull out of Ukraine. I mean, that's something he's threatened before. And I think that would definitely pressure Zelensky to accept the deal, particularly if he were to cut off Starlink, threaten to cut off Starlink access, which would result in the collapse of Ukraine's front lines.
Here's President Trump showing the EU leaders his Butler, Pennsylvania fight, fight, fight picture. Here we go.
That was not a great day.
That was not a great day, he says. There we go. Interesting dynamics here in this meeting. Watch them and their body language and all this going on with this. Let's see here. Zelensky, has he said anything in these sit-down meetings so far? Do you know, David, if he said anything? Zelensky himself?
Well, yeah. There was a press conference earlier today about, I think, around 12:30 your time, which was between Zelensky and Trump alone, along with, obviously the Ukrainian delegation, Rubio, Vance, and other folks like that. Zelensky, he made some comments about, he thinks that the U.S. sanctions threat should stay on the table. He wants to see NATO-style Article 5 security guarantees. He didn't make any commitments about land swaps or territorial swaps that Trump understands has to be part of any deal that Russia can accept. Otherwise, the war will continue indefinitely. So that's those are some of the statements that I think he made.
All right, so we're going to keep you posted. Keep tracking it. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com, and maybe we can get this thing rolled up and then see what we can do with China and Taiwan. Right? That's kind of. You think is that what's next on Trump's schedule?
Well, I mean, obviously that depends on, I do think that President Trump may have some interest in negotiating another, a grand peace deal with China, but he's kind of dealing with these conflicts sequentially. So he's not going to come to a deal with China until he's gotten Russia to, become a strategic partner economically, which I think is smart, assuming he does that in the near term, because as we've discussed on your program, it's very possible that we could see a Chinese blockade and/or invasion of Taiwan as soon as October.
All right, David. We hope we don't see that, but you'll be covering it. We'll be covering it. dpine.substack.com. dpine.substack.com. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Brown. Have a great day.
You too. And we'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.